So last night, I was pleasantly surprised with a beautiful pre-birthday gift from my wonderful 8th grade boys. So thank you all for coming to my house. And the surprise got me thinking. Is anybody in this room brave enough to recall an experience in which they were surprised themselves? Not necessarily for their birthday, but when things did not go according to plan or when things were not fair. Who can recall an experience? I need a brief experience. Eli.
So I thought I did really well on the test, but I did, and I was surprised that I
Good. Eli thought he was going to do well on his test. He did not, and he was surprised. I want one or two more. Jacob.
Okay, so it was during the summer, and I had nothing going on, and then my neighbors came over saying, "Do you want to go to Great Adventure?" And I was like, "Yes," and I was really surprised because I didn't think I was going to do anything that day.
So that's a pleasant experience. I want to focus on a negative experience.
Why?
Because that's the agenda I want to talk about for today. So an experience that you were surprised that things did not work out. Elliot.
I was supposed to go skiing, but it rained, so I wasn't able
Elliot had plans to go skiing and it didn't work out. Good. Okay. So I want to think about likely scenarios that we all experience as a class community, right? And I'm just going to list a few, right? Perhaps, maybe we get upset with a referee call, right? And we think it's not fair because obviously they made the wrong call, so how could it be that they can give such a call? Or maybe there's a teacher in the building that gives us an incident report that's not fair or says something to us in a way that we don't appreciate. And we say to ourselves, I'm surprised that this is a reality that is allowed to happen to me in my lifetime. How is this allowable? Or maybe a parent unfairly punishes us or says something to us that we must do that we don't think is fitting of whatever it is that we think we should be doing. How do we feel during these experiences? What are the feelings that register, that go through our bodies? Freddie.
Yeah, so it's not fair.
So what feeling do you experience during that type of a moment? So you feel like there's injustice. So maybe you feel angry, maybe you feel sad. I'll tell you a feeling that I sometimes experience. I feel paralyzed. I feel like I'm stuck, and no matter how hard I try, no matter how hard I work, the cards are stacked against me, and that's it. The game is rigged, and I can't do anything about the circumstance that I find myself in. And I think this happens to all of us. It's human nature for this to occur. I want to unfold why I think it happens, and then we'll talk about a recipe for success. So I want to call a spade and recognize reality. On some level, us humans are arrogant. We're arrogant in a sense of we think that we know every answer to everything that is happening to us in our life. And we do this for a good reason. We don't mean to be arrogant. We don't mean to be disrespectful. But us human beings, we search for meaning. And we need to rationalize and we need to justify every moment that we experience. And it leaves us asking a certain question when really it's the wrong question. You know, I find it funny now that we're in the March Madness tournament, although now we're transitioning to April. But it's funny, you know, I hear people talking on the street amongst my friends, and they'll say things like, I can't believe Gonzaga lost. And I look at them and I say, you can't even name me the starting lineup. Who are you to tell me what should or should not have happened? Right? But we do this all the time. We assume that every detail is knowable for us at all times. And when you think that way, when you are arrogant enough to assume that you should know everything, it leaves you asking why. Why is this my reality? Why is this an allowable circumstance for me in my life? And if experience has shown us anything, when you are left asking why, you are left feeling angry, you are left feeling sad, you are left feeling paralyzed. And the question that I would like to offer to you boys is asking why getting you what you want? When mom says that you have to do a chore and it's not something you want to do, and you ask the obvious question, why should I have to do that? Right? Let's just think about what's going on behind the scenes. The only reason why you're asking why is because you think you know that this is not something that you should be doing. And so obviously if this is not something that you should be doing, you're therefore left to ask, why should I be doing this? I want to talk about a baseball pitcher that was very successful not too long ago. His name was R.A. Dickey. You ever heard of this name, R.A. Dickey? Yeah? Good. So I want to tell you R.A. Dickey's story because his story is not so known to all. R.A. Dickey was drafted by the Texas Rangers in 1996. He was offered a signing bonus of $825,000, which is not really a lot of money in baseball money, but $825K sounds a lot. Beautiful. Agenda. R.A. Dickey took a photo with a teammate, and his arm was wrapped around that teammate's shoulders. A team doctor, for whatever reason, happened to be looking at that particular photograph, and he noticed something that was odd about how R.A. Dickey's elbow was positioned in that picture. So on that picture, the team doctor recommended that R.A. Dickey have an MRI, get his elbow checked out, and it turns out that R.A. Dickey was missing a particular ligament in his elbow, therefore rendering him somewhat damaged or not, in good standing. And so all of a sudden, R.A. Dickey's $825,000 signing bonus, in an instant, dropped to $75,000. The team said, listen, you have some talent, but you're not going to throw a fastball more than 80 miles an hour. You're not so valuable anymore. You're not $825K valuable. We're willing to let you play and see if you can do your thing, but we don't think you're going to be as special as we thought you could be now that we know this new information about your condition with your elbow. So R.A. Dickey continues to sign, but the story only gets worse. He ends up getting dropped by the Texas Rangers after he was producing horrible statistics. He works his way to the Milwaukee Brewers. He works his way to a couple of other teams. And 14 years later, he finds himself as a free agent. After being bounced around from minor league team to minor league team. And for R.A. Dickey, he had every reason in the world to ask why. Why is it fair that this is my reality? It's not fair. But that's not what R.A. Dickey asked himself. Because if he asked himself why, he would have found himself to be miserable and depressed with no job. But he said to himself, I need to be successful. I need to be producing good results. He asked himself, what do I want and how am I going to get it? So he said to himself, you know what I need to ask myself? Not why. How? Based on the fact that this is my reality, how will I respond? And so for that time that he was left as a free agent, he worked on a pitch that he called his something pitch. Later we discovered it was a knuckleball. Now if you can throw a knuckleball in the major leagues, that's special because very few people have mastered the ability to throw that type of pitch. 2010, R.A. Dickey ends up being signed by the New York Mets. And for any Met fan who's in this room that knows, he became the Cy Young for that year. He was the best pitcher in the National League of that year. Coaches said that he was unhittable. I think he had a stretch of over 40 innings where the guy went scoreless and nobody was able to score over him. And R.A. Dickey did what most people are not willing to do. He said to himself, it must be that I don't have all of the answers, because if I have all of the answers, then it should allow me to ask, why is this my reality? How is this allowable? How can this be happening to me? And boys, we do this all the time. Teacher gives us a hard time and we fight back. I know that you shouldn't be treating me this way, and so therefore I'm going to push back and I'm going to say, who are you to tell me that this is what's going to happen? That's not fair. Why are you allowed to do this to me? Same thing with referees, same thing with our friends, same thing with our parents. We do this all the time. And so boys, we have to understand and we have to figure out who we are and what it is that we are going to do. You have two choices. Choice A, you can think that you have all of the answers figured out and that you know how things should be playing out in your own lives. And so therefore, yeah, I'll agree with you. Logically, it makes sense. You should continue to ask people why this is happening to you. Fair question. My question to you is, does doing that end up getting you what it is that you want? If the answer is yes, then continue. But by the looks of your faces, we all know that that doesn't get us what we want. Feeling angry, feeling depressed, and feeling paralyzed doesn't help me get what it is that I want. You want to get what you want, so choose option B, the second option that you always have available to you. Be a little humble and recognize that, you know what, you don't have all the answers figured out. Sometimes you think this is a good thing that's happening to you and it turns out it was a bad thing, and vice versa. Sometimes you think this is the worst thing that ever happened to me and it turns out that it was one of the greatest things that ever happened to you. Be willing to admit that you don't have all of the answers figured out. And so we don't need to concern ourselves with why things are happening, because why is irrelevant. Why doesn't pay the bills? Why doesn't get me what I want? You want to get what you want? You want to pay the bills? Ask yourself how. Based on the fact that this is your reality, how will you respond? And if you can answer that question, chances are you will maximize your opportunity to get what it is that you want. You may discover your own knuckleball. You may just end up being Cy Young. Choice is yours, boys.
Wait, who's
What it is that you want. Shabbat shalom.
What?